beautiful day. This is the Human Resources and Appointments and Equity Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Ms. Conwell, Ms. Brown. There is a quorum.
And public comment.
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
In your packet, gentlemen, we have the minutes of July 6th. If they're in order, I'll accept the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Resolution 2017-0123.
Resolution number 2017-0123, adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
There we go. Good morning, not Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, members of council. I'm Albert Bouchahine with the Personnel Review Commission. We're here to present and request your consideration for modifications to the county's non-bargaining classification plan. These are changes in department's operational needs and routine maintenance that necessitate the revision of 3 classifications, the creation of 9 new classifications, and the deletion of 1 classification. You were provided a packet of information that includes a summary with information such as the rationale for the changes, who they were requested by, the number of employees affected. And today you're considering 1 classification to be deleted due to reorganization of the department, 4 new classifications that are being created at the request of various agencies, 5 new classifications that reflect the essential functions and minimum qualifications of incumbents in positions that are currently classified as program officers, 2 classifications that are being revised and updated as part of our routine maintenance of the class plan, and 1 classification, as I stated, being revised at the request of the department. These changes were prepared by the Personnel Review Commission class and comp staff who have worked extensively with the Department of Human Resources and county management teams to ensure they're fully informed of the proposed changes before you today. In accordance with the PRC rules, the proposed changes were posted on the PRC's website for 20 days prior to formal action by the Commission. The PRC considered and approved recommending these changes to you at their June 21st, 2017 meeting. Mr. Chairman, due to the length of the process and urgency to fill some of these positions, we're requesting that these recommendations be approved under second reading suspension of rules. I thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Right. And the deleted was the housing manager. The question that I would have, a talent advisor. What's the need for a talent advisor?
Mr. Chairman, this is a new position that was requested by the Department of by the Department of Development through the Department of Human Resources. These positions are individuals who work with the Department of Development and Workforce Development. They actually go out and work directly with employers in the community and develop training plans for their employee needs. There are currently 6 employees in these positions that are functioning as temporary employees. They've been doing so until we're able to create the classification. Once this classification is approved, the position will be posted and it will be open to all, and I'm assuming including these 6 temporary employees that are currently performing these positions.
Questions? Sir. Mr. Miller?
To Mr. Bouchahine, is there any incumbent in the housing manager position?
Councilman, there is not. This position has been vacant for some time. The position's responsibilities have been divvied up amongst several different classifications, but it's been vacant for quite some time.
And the revised classifications, the first one goes from pay grade 11 to pay grade 10 on Schedule B. Is there any impact of that in terms of pay level and how many incumbents?
Councilman, that classification was the help desk technician. It's been revised and updated. The new classification title is IT Service Desk Supervisor. It was moved from non-bargaining Schedule A, pay grade 11, to the IT salary schedule, pay grade 10B. There's currently 1 employee in that classification who makes $53,310. The step 1 I'm sorry, the incumbent makes $52,332. Step one of the new pay grade is $53,310. The step placement will be determined by Human Resources, but I can tell you at a minimum, that person will have to be put at least at step one, which will be a $1,000 increase annually.
Given what's going on with the email migration, that's a very important position right now.
Agreed.
Are there any pay grade, there's no mention of pay grade changes on the other two, so I presume that there's not a pay grade change, is that correct?
That is correct. Although there is one incumbent in each of those, there is no change in pay grade.
And the new classifications are any of these positions where new people will be hired for them, or are these people where existing employees will move into these new positions?
Good question, Councilman. There are new positions that are being created that have no incumbents. They're new to the county. For example, the first is the Business Analytics and Project Management Specialist. That's a classification that was requested by the Department of Human Resources for the Department of HR. Once they get approval for budgeting, et cetera, then they intend to post and fill that position. Also, the talent advisor is a new classification, as I stated. Although there are 4 temporary employees currently performing those duties, they intend to post for the position so they can hire individuals on a full-time basis as permanent employees. And also the Employee Services Specialist is a new classification to the Department of Human Resources. That position too will be posted and be filled.
And am I correct, the talent advisor positions are part of the executive's initiative on career path workforce development?
I cannot answer that specifically, Councilman.
I see a nodding in the back, yes, okay.
Melissa Foldesi here from HR.
Yeah.
She's saying that it is, yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Anything further? Yes, Mr. Jones.
The advocacy coordinator, explain that for me.
We currently have one individual at the Department of Human Services, who's classified as a Program Officer 3. We have been trying to remove as many people out of the Program Officer classification series because they're so broadly written. And each program officer, depending on the appointing authority, may do different things and have different qualifications and needs, et cetera. When we analyze that classification, I'm sorry, did you say fraud auditor or?
Advocacy coordinator.
The advocacy coordinator. 1 second. This is, I'm sorry, at the Department of Senior Adult Services.
Okay.
So there is one employee who currently makes $59,820. The range for this new classification is between 49 and 69. So that employee will fall somewhere between that range. With respect to the advocacy coordinator's class spec, the purpose of this classification is to coordinate the advocacy activities and coordinate them with the advocacy committee. The DSAS has an outside advisory board. This person will coordinate the activities of that advisory board with the department internally here at the county.
Gotcha. Okay. And last, the deleted classification, the housing manager. Did that person transition? How many were there?
There was one housing manager years ago. That individual actually who held that classification is still at the county. He has been promoted, I want to say at least a couple of years ago, to a community development administrator. The classification responsibilities have been disseminated to over multiple different classifications, and they don't intend to have a housing manager anymore. Those responsibilities have been taken on by other individuals.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, hearing nothing further. There's no necessity and emergency to move this forward.
Councilman, we've been, as a matter of practice with Chairwoman Chantel, We've been routinely asking for second reading suspensions only because the process takes so long, the 20-day posting on the PRC side. Obviously, we're changing it to reduce it down to 7, but at this point, by the time it goes to the PRC and council 3 readings, it's a pretty lengthy process, and some of the departments are in urgent need of hiring some of these positions. For example, the talent advisors that are temporary employees were limited by county ordinance to 180 days for temporary employees, and we're coming up fast on that 180 days, so we do need to fill that position.
Well, I'm gonna stay true to what the chairwoman would, I think, expect, but I think in this, an emergency based on your own actions is not really an emergency going forward. And I know we're gonna be moving that up. But we've been here 7 years now, and we haven't had much of a change as far as moving things up. Not your fault, but it just seems to be just something like a dog chasing its tail. So we will move this. And I'm anticipating that's what Chairwoman would want and I think my members here agree. So hearing that, I'll accept a motion for resolution 2017-0123 to the full council under second reading suspension.
Second.
All in favor? Yes, sir.
Before we vote on it, I just want to comment that I'm willing to make the class plan changes, but given that it's looking less and less likely that the legislature is going to override the Medicaid managed care fix and therefore leave us with a $25 million annual hole in the budget. I think that Department of Budget and Management is going to have to carefully look at to what extent we can fill open positions until we have a better handle on the budget. But I'm presuming that's going to take place, and I'm willing to change the class plan.
And Councilman, if I may add, nothing you do today will require the county to fill any of these positions. Once they're approved, they still have to go through the OBM budget approval process, et cetera.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 2017-0127.
Resolution number 2017-0127, confirming the county executive's reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Cleveland Cuyahoga County Port Authority Board of Directors for various terms.
Mr. Ronayne personally called me. He is unfortunately, Mr. Kraus, in Israel. Fortunate for him, unfortunate for us, on a trade mission, I believe. And I didn't hear anything from Jan Roller. Do you have anything?
I do not.
And these are reappointments. So these are folks that have gone through this process once before. I believe Jan Roller's reputation is intact, certainly. Does any of the committee members have a problem going forward without testimony?
I have no problem. We should just request the usual that the chairperson would request, which is that they send us a letter expressing their interest and qualifications around serving for another term, which hopefully we would receive before we make the final vote on this.
Right, those requests went out already. And the request specifically was to have something for our records that would show that if they're reappointments, that they're in good standing with that individual body in which they are part of. Again, Mr. Ronayne will send that in. He did talk to me personally. So we will, Janine, if we could send another reminder to all of those on today's docket that if we haven't received communications, we'd appreciate that. With that, if I don't hear any more discussion on that, I will accept a motion for resolution 2017-0127 to the full council. Is there a need to move this, Mr. Kraus, in an emergency manner?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay, so we'll just move it for second reading to the full council.
That's motion, then I'll make a second.
And is there discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much. Resolution 2017-0128.
Resolution
I believe we have a,
proposed substitute, yes.
right. Do we want to read that first and then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2017-0128, confirming the county executive's appointment and reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board.
Thank you. And there is a proposed substitute,
It's on page 57.
page 57. We will, in this, in essence, the appointments will be Mr. Max Rodas, Mr. Silliman will be removed, Ernie Cade will remain as an appointee, and the addition of Hugh Shannon as an appointee. On the reappointments, Mr. Fowler and Ms. War are removed, and Mr. Kilpack and Cassie Handler will be added. Mr. Kilpack's already under, Ms. Handler will be added. Am I missing anything? Does that make sense, gentlemen?
I'm just wondering why such an extensive change in the
I don't know.
recommendations occurred, and wondered if Mr. Kraus could give us any enlightenment.
Mr. Kraus,
I-
do you dare tiptoe
No.
into those tulips?
No, because I don't have the information as far as why the changes.
So we will chalk this up to things happen, I guess.
Correct.
It would be helpful in the future that if we had a little bit more heads up on this. And again, Janine, these folks were notified about if they weren't going to be here, that we would need something in writing from them. If they're
Yes.
appointees, that we want something as far as going forward and what they bring to the board. And if they're reappointees, just that they're in good standing with the committee.
Yes, and Ms. Handler sent her information.
Ms.
and-
Handler sent a letter that's in our packet. Let's
Mr.
see
Cade.
here. Mr. Cade did? I didn't see one from Mr. Cade.
I think there might be some biographical information concerning Mr. Cade that's attached. I also think there's resume and biographical information concerning Mr. Kilpack and his appointment, and I think Mr. Rodas is here today. Yeah.
Well, let's hear from Mr. Rodas, and we appreciate him being here, don't want to hold him up. Mr. Shannon is familiar with the committee, and we will make sure that we get something from him. Mr. Rodas, thank you for being here. You're the most important person in a very important person day.
Looks like my church now. Well, I did not prepare any statements. I can just speak from my heart what I've done. I am a clergyman. I'm an ordained elder with the Church of the Nazarene since 1984. I'm an immigrant from Guatemala, but I've been lost in the snow of Cleveland for the last 40 years. Guatemala City is 60 to 70 degrees today. So anyway, love this city. Been working with HIV and AIDS since 1988 when the epidemic began to spill over into African Americans and Latinos. Both my wife and I felt that we needed to create an organization that was culturally competent and linguistically adequate. And we decided to create a ministry, a nonprofit. I think that if I would have known what I know now, I would have never started it. But, God has been amazing. You fast forward 18 years, we employed about 25 people now, about 5 medical case managers. 4 or 5 housing case managers. We have a small legal clinic. We have 2.5 attorneys, 2 attorneys and 1 paralegal. Nutrition, we have an office in Lorraine. And right now, Nueva Luz Urban Resource Center is the largest HIV/AIDS community-based organization in Greater Cleveland. So we serve 600 individuals infected with HIV. And the way we serve it is we just don't serve the infected, we serve the affected. We have a small office in Lorraine, and now our board of directors strategically thinking about becoming stronger in Lorraine. The reason why this appointment is it's a great privilege to me is because for the last, even before I started this organization, I used to work for the AIDS Task Force and for Catholic Charities. And since 1988, when I bumped into the first couple infected with HIV, I realized that HIV infection is the tip of the iceberg. Under that iceberg, you have substance abuse and mental health. So you begin with mental health issues, then you begin to self-medicate, and then when you begin to self-medicate, you begin to do things that probably shouldn't be doing, at least not as cautiously as should be doing it. And so that's where we have the HIV infection. My journey doing this kind of work has been nothing short of magical, because it's basically having an idea about making a solution and watching what I call God, just supporting what we're doing. And in the process, we have developed tremendous friendships and partnerships, and now people give us a lot of credit for what we do. But, you know, it's just you stand at the plate long enough, the ball is going to hit the bat, right? And people are going to think you got to hit. So that's our story. So when the appointment came on, I was very happy. I'm, you know, obviously Latino, so I have a specific set of lenses that I use to look at reality and to graciously challenge systems and do the kind of stuff that I've been doing for a long time.
You're coming on in a very challenging period, not just the HIV/AIDS crisis of the 80s and 90s and what we've gone through there, but now we have the opioids. So you're coming into a time in which the Adams Board is even more identified as someone to go to help fix this.
Right.
So we greatly appreciate someone such as yourself with your background to participate, because it is service to the public, and that's what we do. We take some
Right.
slings and arrows, but I think in the end, I don't know of any of us that would trade it, because it truly is great service to those in need.
I love the city of Cleveland, and I love the city of Lorraine. I celebrated with the rest of us as the Cavaliers won the NBA championship, right? And we're looking forward to this World Series this year. Maybe it is a joy of my life to be able to be part of the solution. And I have a wife who is a clinical director in LISW, and I have a family that really believes in community transformation. We have always believed that, so it's great. It's great to be alive.
Well, it's in Cleveland in particular with the Latinos now, with the Bishop Perez coming into town.
Right.
I mean, it's you know, it's
What's up with that?
It's a change. Well, I'm Catholic, and I'll tell you, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to get good leaders of the churches is very important, and we've been somewhat blessed in the past to have that. And he seems, by all rights, to be energetic and willing to just get in there and do it, and that's what we need. And as you well know, I'm preaching to your choir right now. So exciting time, I think.
And if I may say, so my daughter, my oldest daughter, escaped from Cleveland, living in Chicago, living the dream, trying to be a comedy writer for Second City and have a little job. And I always look at Chicago and I think to myself, this is got to be Cleveland, right? My house got hit by a driver on November 30th. I live on Clay Road in North Olmsted, and devastated my house. So the insurance moved us to a house in Camps Corner. And I have discovered another world in Camps Corner. So at the end of the day, we're all got to do it together. You know, Latinos, right. African Americans, Asians, Caucasians, everybody. We just need to do it together.
That's another section of town that's bouncing back from, not a good period to a great period.
Yeah.
It's amazing some of the things that I see. Other questions? Mr. Miller?
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for being willing to serve and also to welcome you to the Second County Council District in Camps Corners. It's part of my district. We're very happy to have you.
It's an exciting weekend area.
Yes. And my question is this, that there are a whole lot of really dedicated people that have been pouring out heart and soul from in various fields, doing all kinds of different things, trying to help with the opiate crisis. And despite all these efforts, it's just getting worse. And my question, and I know it's a hard one, is whether you're aware of anything that we're not doing that you think we could be doing that would help.
Clinically, I'm at a loss, just like everybody else, right? We're trying to figure it out. I think there's some medications that are seem promising, and we actually just joined a partnership with Metro on the research of a particular drug in Lorraine. I will speak from my gut because I have had substance abuse issues in my family. So to me, this is beyond being professional. It's a personal thing. What I would add, what I would share is that one of the things that I continue to challenge pastors. I just recently joined the United Pastors of Mission, which is an African American pastors association. I'm the Latino guy, but I'm always the Latino guy everywhere. And one of the things I'm learning is that we have to do it as a community. Every entity, every institution in Greater Cleveland needs to be part of that. And I think that the church needs to be really involved, because part of the issue that we always talk about spiritual formation things, and we forget the community transformation piece. I think that all of us need to take our place. And I guess my short answer would be, I think that going back to strengthening the family, however that family looks like, I think that there needs to be a strengthening of the family structure, and to begin to have the conversation with our kids when we need to have this conversation. So I had 3 kids. 2 of them did very well, and one had to go through the challenges. But I think that the conversation remained, and I think we need to be intentional and proactive and move forward. And like everything else, we'll find a solution. I've been working in HIV and AIDS. I remember there were years when I had 25, 30 funerals. Today, we have folks who take one drug. We have a repressed viral load, and the T cells are up. So if you stay at it, you'll find a solution, but we have to do it together.
I would just comment that I think you're really on the right track. I think the solution has to involve a lot of community organizing. Greater Cleveland is truly blessed. We have just numerous community organizations, local development corporations, Hispanic organizations, African American organizations, religious organizations, all kinds, and the capabilities to really reach deep into the grassroots are there, and I don't think have been fully taken advantage of as far as this particular problem is concerned. And so yes, I think you're on the right track.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Jones? And we welcome Councilwoman Conwell.
And Mr. Rodas, I just wanted to commend you for the work that you've done over the years. You're correct. The challenges that we faced, they over the years, again, being a funeral director, I've seen it myself. You know, the numbers of individuals we've buried throughout the 80s, late 70s, 80s in particular, and into the 90s. But I believe from the hard work of many in the community, we've seen that a change in the tide. But it's a continued work. It's not something that we take for granted. And so again, I just want to commend you for the work you've done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay. Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you being here, and we'll be voting on this in a moment.
Okay. Should I leave then?
You can leave if you wish.
Or should I stay?
We'll
or-
be probably moving this, I would imagine, to tomorrow or next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. You don't have to be here. You can watch us on live stream.
Okay.
But we appreciate you
Well,
being
thank you.
here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Little housekeeping. I would accept a motion for Resolution 2017-0128, to be the substitute, if that's in order.
Second.
I'll also move.
Okay, and we have a second from Mr. Jones. All in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you. And I would I would accept a motion for Resolution 2017-0128 as substituted to the full council under second reading suspension. Mr. Kraus, is that what you would prefer?
Correct.
To move? Thank you.
I so move.
Thank you. All in favor? Well, with a comment, sir?
A
Yes,
comment, yes.
yes, please.
Before we vote on this, I just want to say that I think this is one of the most important boards and commissions that there is in all of county government. And I'm willing to vote this out to keep things moving and to help the administration. But in the future, I would like more preparation in this process, and I would like to see most or all of the applicants for this very important board come in and speak to us and have the opportunity to have a more thorough discussion about the issues and the future of these issues. I am very, very thankful for Mr. Rodas that he came in personally, but I would like to see more in the future on this particular board.
Right, and especially those new appointments.
Agreed. Agreed.
But again, Janine, if we could remind them, we would appreciate something for our record. The reappointments, I'm very comfortable with, as long as they are in good standing with the board in which they serve. So we have the substitute before us. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much. Resolution 2017-0129.
Resolution number 2017-0129, confirming the county executive's appointment and reappointment of various individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation Board of Trustees.
Okay, what we have here, Mr. Seren is a reappointment, and he is very familiar with us. He's here if you have any questions. Same with Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Cartagena and Mr. Ferris are reappointments, but I don't have communications from them.
No, Mr. Chair, per the email, we didn't send out anything to the reappointments asking them to be here.
No, as far as a letter for the record.
Khalil has a letter, and the other appointments, we just have the biographical information.
Okay, so going forward, when we're done here on the reappointments, I just want to make sure that they're in good standing and on the boards in which they sit. And also Radhika Reddy did send a letter. She's a reappointment. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Seren.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. These appointments are being done in a particular way due to the nature of the timeline of the terms. So many of these appointments are initial appointments with an additional reappointment also attached. So 5 of the appointments will also be reappointed according to this resolution. So me, Dennis Kennedy, Louis Cartagena, Joe Ferris, and Radhika Reddy, I believe they are being appointed and reappointed because of the timeline. So for instance, the initial I don't currently serve on this board. I would be appointed for a term ending this October 15th. And they felt that it would be wise to do the reappointment as well at the same time so as not to waste council's time doing another appointment in.
The two birds with one stone effect.
Correct.
Continue, sir.
Well, if you'd like for me to
I'm
continue.
pretty aware of you, but if there's something you have.
My resume is in the biographical information, and I've also provided a memo just outlining my interest and where my interest comes from in working on this committee. So I appreciate, frankly, I just want to say that I appreciate the consideration. I appreciate the consideration from the executive as well. And I think that this sort of exemplifies the type of coordination and cooperation between the branches in terms of me being nominated to serve on the CIC. I have a deep appreciation for the protection of the public resources that are expended by our Economic Development Division. I think that the CIC plays an important role in ensuring not only that the funds are well spent in terms of the creditworthiness of the borrowers, the appropriateness of the projects, and the thorough nature of the investigation done by the department. You know, that additional level of scrutiny by an independent board, I think, is important, and it protects council and it protects the executive as well in terms of how these loans are made. So I understand the importance of the job, and I think my education and experience have prepared me for sort of the technical aspects of the job. And you know, even though I haven't been in banking, I've been around these deals enough to understand what we're looking for in a company and in a project that would provide a level of comfort to county council, to the executive, that, you know, this isn't a deal destined to fail, whichever deal happens to be in front of you. But then additionally, I think that I bring a different context, an understanding of context to the CIC as well as a staff member for council. Bringing that perspective into the discussion is important as well because it speaks to a larger set of priorities. You know, thinking about the nature of not only, you know, the budgetary context that these loans are made in, but also the context of the greater economy in the region, where, you know, potentially we should be expending funds and promoting business. So I think that it's important to have that backstop. It's important to have that protection, and I am grateful to be asked to serve, and I hope that you feel that I'm qualified to do so.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
To the chair, to Mr. Sarin. So there's 11 individuals. Where it says county class and private sector class, that just means where they're coming from in terms of where the individuals are coming from.
So statutorily, the community improvement corporations were enabled by Ohio law. And as a community improvement corporation that is designated for a particular area, at least 40% of the board needs to come from sort of public employees. or, from public officials or employees. And in this case, it works out that the agreement between the Cuyahoga County Community Improvement Corporation and the county, when it was formed, created a county class and a private sector class. The county class was 5 individuals, the private sector class was 6 individuals. I think the original agreement called for our partner, Greater Cleveland Partnership, to appoint the 6, but I believe that agreement has changed over the course of the years after the new government came into effect, so that the county executive, in consultation with the Greater Cleveland Partnership, appoints the 6 private sector class members with the confirmation of council, of course, and then directly, without consultation of the GCP, appoints the 5 public sector county class individuals. So, but the requirement comes from the statute that at least 40% of the members of the board need to be public sector class, county class.
And did that statute change when this government was formed?
No, the statute
that's-
didn't change, but the agreement, so the underlying statute allows the county to designate, ultimately, this is a nonprofit corporation that the county has an agreement with to perform certain duties. And so that agreement, the underlying statute didn't change, but the agreement between the county and the nonprofit corporation was adjusted slightly.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anything further?
Okay. Refresh my memory, over the past 6 years, this CIC has been in place?
Correct.
And-
Oh, sorry.
And my question was, am I remembering correctly that the CIC actually has not reviewed over the past 6 years? Every loan, there have been loans that have taken place without their vetting?
So, okay. Current practice, and I'd have to get back to you on when current practice may have shifted exactly. But current practice is that loans that go through the Department of Development are vetted by the CIC. However, the CIC wasn't initially created for that purpose. The CIC was created before the new government came into effect, and its original purpose was to, actually, technically, their purpose is to advance, encourage, and promote industrial, economic, commercial, and civic development in a particular area. Generally, what they were empowered to do, though, was to approve industrial revenue bonds. And we don't really use those anymore. When the new government came into effect, I'm not exactly sure how much time between the start of the new government and when former Executive Fitzgerald determined that this body would serve as a loan review committee, so an economic development loan review committee. But at some point at the beginning of the new government, it was determined that that body could also function as a loan review committee that would, have an outside view and sort of vet loan economic development loan projects that the Department of Development proposed, sort of as an intermediate step between getting on an agenda for the council or the Board of Control. But I'm not entirely sure when that happened, so there may have been economic development loans that were not reviewed since at some point when the new government started.
Should we have the expectation that in the future, all loans, development loans should be vetted by this board?
That's my understanding. However, caveat to that, I don't believe that they vet economic development grants that may be made. I don't know what the appetite is in the department to continue doing economic development grants. It has happened, and those grants do not go before the CIC. There may also be a question about loans that are, for instance, actually there are loans that come from the Department of Development, not the Economic Development Division within that department. Those are loans like the home rehabilitation loans that are provided to individual homeowners to repair or renovate their homes through CDBG dollars. And those loans do not go before the CIC. Those are subject to guidelines from the federal government and are not the same as an economic development loan. Those CDBG loans are not the same as economic development loans. They have different guidelines, so they don't go before the CIC.
Does this board also vet loans or watchdog loans that may not have been repaid?
No, the CIC does not perform sort of a servicing or a collections function. They investigate the requirement, they inquire into the requirements of the loan, whether it's, asking about job numbers and making sure that those requirements are on the front end, but they do not work on the back end of the collections process.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, to Cleo, first, thanks very much for your willingness to serve in this way. I think you have more than enough experience and qualifications in the economic development area that you can serve very capably for us. To follow up on the Vice President's question, we do loans through intermediaries such as ECDI, and my question is whether those would go through the CIC or not.
Those loans do not go through the CIC currently. The ECDI, Jumpstart, those organizations that we contract with to provide not only the sort of the function of loaning out the funds, but also working with those companies in order to ensure that they are best positioned to repay and best positioned to grow. We rely on those organizations because they have expertise in the specific companies that they deal with and vetting those specific companies. So they perform that function for the county as well.
Mr. President, to Vice President Jones, he's saying that loans through intermediary organizations like ECDI do not go through the CIC, just for your information.
And it's important to note, sir, as well, that those loans don't go through the Department of Development staff either.
Okay. My other question is whether meetings of the CIC are open to the public.
All meetings are public meetings, subject to public meeting and public records guidelines. There are some differences in terms of the ability for this particular body to close a portion of the meeting, and that has to do with the regulation from the state that allows these types of economic development bodies to review confidential financial information in closed session, and there are certain records that are also not public, the confidential financial records as well, that are not subject to the same rules for public meetings and public records, but the decisions of the body are obviously public, the meetings are public, and I invite everyone to attend.
Okay. The reason I bring that up is that that having you serve on the CIC, despite some confidentiality limitations, it sounds like you're going to have significant ability to come and report to us about the nature of the discussion in the CIC around these various projects, and that could help give us a better understanding of the quality of the projects and the risks that might be involved, and I think that'll be very useful for us.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
We're done. Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair, is it listed on the website when the meetings are? Is it somewhere we can see that?
I can't speak for the, at present nature of the county's website and scheduling the meetings, but I think historically there have been some issues with where to find the schedule of meetings and agendas and those sorts of things. This is something that I imagine the administration and their partner GCP, who is, I believe, one of their staffs those meetings. It's something they're working on, but I'm not sure that the county website is as reliable as I would hope in terms of those sorts of, that sort of information.
Department of Development would have that current information, possibly?
They should.
Okay, and then a question in regards to, I understand the process of the appointments, but today we're actually voting on all the appointments?
Today, I
Or just
believe,
the county? Because
No.
we really, do we have a say in electing the private sector class?
yes, all of the appointments to this particular board are subject to confirmation by council, private and public class.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
this would be to the appointments and then the subsequent additional reappointments for those whose terms end relatively soon.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anything further? We good? Thank you, Claude.
One more just piece of information for the committee. I don't know what the request is from the administration relative to second reading suspension, or, you know, no worries about that. I did want to point out that there is as far as I know, a meeting scheduled for the 25th. Is it the 25th or the 26th? It's the day after the next council meeting, so the 26th. So if you did pass it on second reading suspension, then that would allow the council to possibly approve it on the 25th in time for the 26th meeting. However, I don't know that that's necessary. It would allow these appointees to serve during that meeting, but it also could potentially create some confusion in terms of, you know, this is a follow-up meeting to a previous meeting. They'll be discussing something that has already been discussed. And so there may be some difficulties with learning curve as well. But I'm not sure what the administration's goal was in terms of meeting the deadline for that meeting or not. So but I wanted to point it out as something to consider.
Thank you.
I actually have one question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Khalil, you mentioned the five or reappointments, reappointment, but this is the initial term for each of you as 5 appointments?
Correct. So I believe the county class, with the exception of Chris Murray, we are all new appointments. So Joseph Ferris, Louis Cartagena, Dennis Kennedy, and we have not served on this board before. So they're original appointments. I believe that there's been some, in terms of filling there aren't vacant seats necessarily. It's just a question of terms have expired, but according to determination from our law department, the way that it works is that even if a term expires, membership continues until a successor is appointed. So the people that are currently serving are serving past the expiration of the terms.
So the ones that are currently serving, they aren't the ones that are appointments. The remaining number here,
Some
are
of
these
them
new
are.
as well?
Like Chris Murray, Radhika Reddy, Richard Perry, I believe they are all currently serving. But the way that the terms have expired, they need to be appointed because their terms have expired. And they'll be appointed, like for instance, Chris Murray is going to be appointed for an unexpired term ending 3/31/2020. And I believe he is being appointed to his own, to the term that expired and restarted, because I believe his term may have ended, but he's continuing to serve according to our interpretation.
So some of these private sector appointments are actually first-term individuals. Some are reappointments. Well, some are currently serving.
Correct. Jeff
But not
Bechtel,
all
for
of them are.
instance, is currently serving.
Which ones are first-time appointments?
So don't necessarily quote me, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get them all right. The ones that are not currently serving, me, Dennis Kennedy, Louis Cartagena, Tanya Maness, Michael Obi, and Brian Hall. I believe that's correct.
I'm familiar with the majority of them. I can't say that I know Tanya Maness, but my question is, why aren't they here? At least for the first-time appointments.
Well, we'll get to that.
Get that? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
See, Purnell, you jumped the gun there. That was what's next because I had a question for Mr. Kraus.
Okay.
And we can go down, Mr. Saren, Kennedy. I had Cartagena and Ferris as reappointments. And Mr. Murray, Radhika Reddy sent a letter, that's a reappointment. The only ones that I have concern or question with is Tanya Maness and Richard Perry, who seem to be new appointments but have not contacted us in any way as far as their interest in joining the board. Do you have anything over there that we don't have?
I do not. I know Tanya, you know, she's an employee development director for the city of Shaker Heights. So I have not heard from Tanya, and I don't know if she contacted anyone in the administration. Richard, it does serve. Richard's he's an insurance broker with Pinckney Perry Insurance Company.
Okay.
I know Richard well, and he has served for quite some time on the CCCIC, and I know he desires a reappointment. I think some of the other folks, Mr. Hall, Mr. Obi, Ms. Reddy, sent in
They did.
information, whether it's a bio or whether it's letters. But as far as why they're not here, I do not have that information, no.
So what we'll do here, Janine, is we can make a contact with Tanya Maness, Richard Perry, and
Michael Obi.
we have Mr. Obi sent a letter.
Oh, he
It's
sent
in
a
your
letter,
packet.
okay.
And resume from Mr. Murray and Mr. Kennedy, I think would suffice. The same with Mr. Cartagena and Mr. Ferris. That should take care of it as far as moving forward. The newer ones, I really wish were here. That would,
I agree.
I don't know what happened on that end. I don't know where the committee is as far as going forward on that. Sounds to me like there's not a great need to move forward on this as an emergency, so I might suggest we read this the full 3 times to give people the opportunity to get the proper paperwork in front of us so that we would be more comfortable when we do vote. Is that agreeable? Agreeable. So let's do that, Janine, and I'll go over this again as far as the contacts with the individuals and what we expect. On Resolution 2017-0129, I'll accept the motion for moving that to the full council for second reading with the understanding that we will receive the paperwork we request.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask Janine a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know there was kind of a switch over. Were letters sent out? I know Chrissy
Yes.
just left, and so I didn't know.
Letters
if
were sent
Chrissy-
out to everyone. No, I sent letters out to everyone.
Yeah, everyone
And
was
copied
contacted.
Councilman Gallagher.
Yeah, everyone was contacted, so if I'll go over that again with you, Janine, and, so is there, miscellaneous business? Mr. Kraus, do you have anything for us?
Nope.
Other public comment?
Mr. Chair, no one assigned down.
Thank you.